I call to order the June 17th, 2025 regular meeting of the Whittier City Council at 5 after 7. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Shen?
Here.
Mr. Wagner?
Here.
Mr. McAlto?
Here.
Mr. Pinkush?
Here.
Here.
Apologies, that was for Mr. Denmark. Mr. Dickinson? Absent. Mr. Mayor?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Mayor, if I can add to your roll call, this morning we received a resignation from Councilmember Dickinson that I would like to read into the record. City Council, dear members of the Whittier City Council, I'm writing to formally resign from my position as the member of the Whittier City Council effective today. We sold our condo sooner than it was expected, so it is necessary to step down from my role. I have full confidence in the council's ability to continue its important work and to serve the people of Whittier with dedication and integrity. Serving on the city council has been an honor and a privilege. I am proud of the work we have accomplished together. I have learned a great deal and have been inspired by the dedication and commitment of my fellow council members and the community. Thank you for the opportunity to serve our community. I look forward to seeing the continued growth and success for Whittier. Sincerely, Dave Dickinson. With that being said, per city code, we do need to have a vote or a non-objection to the resignation.
So request for excused absence, none. Is there any objection to accepting Mr. Dickinson's resignation from Council Seat C effective immediately as per Whittier Municipal Code 2.04.140C? Hearing none, Mr. Dickinson's resignation is accepted and Council Seat C is declared vacant.
With that vacancy, applications will be available effective tomorrow with the clerk's office, and the deadline for those applications being accepted will be July 8th at 5 p.m. so that they can be brought forward to your following July council meeting, the 15th.
Okay. Moving on to citizens' comments. Citizen comments on any agenda item except those scheduled for public hearing are welcome at this time.
The first one signed in is Kai Holland.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm Kai Holland. I'm the representatives for District 9 representing this area and back up into Anchorage, including the South Anchorage hillside. So it's a pleasure to see you again. I've been obviously at the session for the last 5 months, so I wasn't able to come here as regularly as I was last fall. So I'm glad to be here tonight, and I, to the extent I can, will continue to be here monthly to spend time to learn about what issues are important here and what I can do to support you from the state and the work we do there. I wanted to take a second to do two things. One is I want to just mention briefly some of the legislative work that I was involved in the legislature. And then I want to get to the most important item, which is following up on a citation we did for the Whittier Police Department and for the work that they have done in serving the public and the safety in this area. So in terms of the legislative work, probably the principal areas included the capital budget, which includes funding for the highway work and the tunnel work. And fortunately, despite much of our capital budget and our operating budget being extremely difficult and lean, those primary projects that were federally funded were able to survive the budget vetoes and the cuts that were made in order to balance the budget. The sheet that I've handed out to those of you up at the dais has on the back side a list of the capital projects that were in the state capital project appropriation for fiscal year 26. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those. I'm not an expert on all of the federal funded projects, but I'm happy to research and look into any of those if you have questions. On the other side is a list of the different legislative priorities that I was working on. Probably most notable for this venue is towards the bottom, you'll see in that section of community requested legislative priorities is House Bill 216. That's for the Whittier Railroad land transfer process. That bill was introduced late in the session. It has been introduced. It is now sitting in the House Transportation Committee, where it's queued up to be immediately heard once we come back in session in January. And as we have time over this interim, the next 6 months, if there's work that we can be doing on that legislation to ensure that if there's some additional changes that need to be made to that, I'd like to be working with you to understand what those changes are and to be able and available if needed to work with you and or the railroad on those changes. But I'll continue to work closely with that legislation and carrying it through. And in particular, what I'll need to know, as we get closer to the start of session is what the timing will be for this land transfer and the legislation you need. For those of you that aren't as familiar, under the state statutes, the legislature has to approve the railroad making any sort of change in the railroad land ownership that it has. So it becomes a legislative task for us to approve some sort of action as is being proposed with the transfer of the railroad land to Whittier. So we've done this before. We are following the pattern that was done most recently with the NANA. So I don't expect it'll be hard to do. I just want to make sure that we do it in a way that's conducive to what you're expecting and what you need in that legislation. So I'll leave that for now. And I guess before going on to the citation, just ask if you have any questions for me regarding the state budgets or the legislation. Take care of that now, and then I'll do the citation. So if you have a question, I'd be happy to take it. Otherwise, I'll move on. Yes, sir.
Just, I'm curious on the state's capital budget. There's a lot of money going to the ferry system. Is there anything specific that we should be aware of as might impact Whittier?
Thank you for the question, and through the mayor. The funding, as I understand it, for the ferry system was very bare bones. One of the things I did accomplish was making sure that the state's transportation plan that was updated in statutes, one of my amendments was to make sure that the ferry system got included in the transportation plan so that in the future we'd recognize that the ferry system is an essential part of transit and transportation throughout much of Alaska's coastal region. So the funding at this point, I think, is very limited to keeping the current boats, ships running. As you probably saw in the news today, the Matanuska is now being slated to be permanently retired at this point. We have one ship, I believe, that they're working on developing. I think until we come up with some sort of new understanding of how essential the ferry system is, it's going to continue to operate on a very skinny budget. So there's a number of us that are working in the coastal areas to try and support funding, but there was not much money for anything this year. So this is basically just keep the existing ships running without the growth and the support that we really need for these communities. I think that was a non-answer as I reflect on what I said. Thank you for the question. Now I'll continue to do that. Yes, sir.
Could you give a brief explanation on the 6 $1.8 million for Anton Anderson Tunnel?
Thank you for the question. I'm afraid I'll have to go back and do some digging on that one. That's one of those federal projects that I watched out for, but I don't know the specific scope of work on that. So I'll follow up through the city manager with an answer on the details of that project and get back to you on that. Anything else? All right, thank you for that. So I want to wrap up tonight, and if the police chief is here, I know you guys are very busy tonight, so I appreciate this. We put together a citation. If you recall, back on January 27th, there was an important opportunity where the Whittier Fire and EMS responded to a tragic motor vehicle accident on the highway. And in the work that I've been doing, getting to know the intimate relationship between the Whittier Fire and EMS and the work that you do to support Girdwood and the highway in this area, it became clear to me how essential Whittier is to providing emergency response services, not only immediately in Whittier, but you're also, as in this case, going out and being the first responders out on the highway in this area. So in recognition of that, I'll just read just the beginning part of this, but it's really a recognition, and this was brought forward both through the entire House as well as the Senate to recognize the work that you're doing so that all of us across the legislature recognize the important role of the Whittier Police and EMS. And the beginning of this just begins to say, the members of the 34th legislature take pride in honoring the Whittier Police Department for its exceptional dedication, service, and commitment to the people of Alaska. The Whittier Police Department plays a vital role in ensuring the safety and well-being of residents in Whittier and Girdwood, as well as providing critical response services along Upper Turnagain Arm and the Seward Highway between Anchorage and the Kenai Peninsula. In 2024 alone, the department responded to 1,323 public safety calls, 202 emergency medical service and fire responses, often under challenging and hazardous conditions. It goes on to recognize Officers Jerry and Officer Corey in the exceptional service and response that they provided in this incident in January. I just want to thank the department and the city for the services you provide and how essential you are to the state and the safety that we have. So thank you, and just appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, no other citizens are signed in.
Right. Approval of agenda and consent agenda. Is there a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda and consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none?
Voting on the motion to approve tonight's agenda and consent agenda, Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. McCulto,
Yes.
Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion passes and the agenda and consent agenda are approved. On tonight's consent agenda is the approval of the May 19th, 2025 Board of Equalization meeting minutes and the approval of the May 19th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
At this time, does anyone wish to declare a substantial financial interest in a matter appearing on the agenda? Vice Mayor, would you like to give a report?
Nothing from here, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
City Manager, would you like to give your report?
I can give some brief updates, but our report is located in the packet. Just as a reminder, we have had some very large visits coming into Whittier in the last couple months, and we recognize that that is from efforts of our administrative staff, but also our visit to DC. And it's just always really nice to see them coming in with great interest in what Whittier is working on and the projects that we have. Our last one was the administrator from the EPA. We took him along with his group of individuals. I don't even know what to call them all. Entourage. It's entourage of people. We took them to our 3 main local points of our Brownsfield properties, as well as took him on a tour on the backside of the Buckner building. But then when we completed that tour, we took him on Shotgun Cove Road, showed him the projects there, the DeLong dock. We showed him the our project that we are working on there. And it was just a really great visit for us to show why the Brownsfield is so important for Whittier and why the demolition of the Buckner building, sort of spans upon all of our projects in one way or another. So it's got really good push for us at the legislative level, but also at the congressional level. So that was a really great visit. We have hired a receptionist that will be coming in to help us on the administrative side. So really happy with the fact that we have hired another local that lives here year round and wants to be able to help within the community. So we're excited for that. And today is officially Addison's 3rd month here. So yay, look, she's still here, guys. And you have any questions regarding our CMR with any of the directors, feel free.
For the police chief, I noticed that we now have AM radio access in Whittier. We've always had it, okay.
I just put in there because the last council meeting brought up, it's 6:50 AM, it's a talk radio out of Anchorage, and,
Okay. Yeah, I just verified that it was working. Some vehicles, depends on the antenna, it does work. Pretty much as soon as you pass Girdwood, that's going to be the only clear radio station you're going to get through. And it works in Whittier as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. It's on page 5 on the CMR, and it's regarding the seasonal garbage charges for lessees. We have brought this topic up before, but I do want to bring attention to it again. And in here it mentions about the monthly rate of garbage services charged to lessees. In 2024, the harbor, I'm going to summarize it, the harbor paid $140,000 and change in solid waste collection. And this fee here, this garbage fee to lessees is going to generate $7,500 in revenues. And I know we have a wide and diverse demographic of lessees down at the harbor front, ranging from gift shops to kayak shops to restaurants. And so they're going to generate different amounts of trash monthly and stuff. Currently, the monthly rate charged them is $60. If you do a quick search online, you can see that in Anchorage, if you get an 8-yard dumpster for like a tip fee for that, you're looking at $370 for pickup every week of the month. And this is from Denali Refuse. This is in Anchorage. I don't know what it is to dump a dumpster for us here in Whittier because they have to transport it, but that is that's considerably more than what we charge. And I know, and again, I want to do bring up the point that we have a wide and diverse pool of lessees down at the harbor front. I think maybe beyond the summer, I feel like it would be a good move to kind of address this, because $140,000 in solid waste collection fees is huge. That is like a tenth of our harbor budget. Yeah, am I right? It's like a tenth. And then we're bringing in $7,500 in revenues a year to that. So I don't have an answer, but I think it would be worth our time to do it, take a deep dive into it in the future after the summer's over. Thank you.
Any more questions? Moving on to public hearings. Ordinance 2025, let's see.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I think that's a typo on my part. You can skip down to resolutions. There's no
Yeah.
ordinances, no public hearings. I apologize.
I was having a deja vu moment.
My apologies.
Okay. Ordinances for introduction. Ordinance,
There are none. It's
oh, there's two more. Okay.
resolutions.
I'd ask for a resolution for 2025-023.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to read the title for
Sure.
that? Yeah, okay. Resolution 2025-023 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to engage a contractor to install newly purchased children's playground equipment according to playground safety standards and to purchase related fill and other materials in an amount not to exceed $35,000 and appropriating funds.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-023.
I'll second. Discussion? I did have a question. The playground's going to be located near the basketball courts?
That is one of the areas that, when council talked about playgrounds, that you did talk about placing it up at that area. It's also been discussed with the council, possibly moving it to where your park is, but it's one of those things that we do have it sort of slated to be next to where the basketball court is at this time. I would, you know me, I would say to you, wherever you would like us to place it, we will make sure it gets placed. But at the same time, I would like you to also look for the future of connecting and building your Whittier Falls Park, because that is a safer location.
Yeah, and I had previously advocated and will do so here, that it be over by the well house and the basketball courts. Just the last 2 sunny days, there's 20 or 30 kids out there already. And that puts it where they are and allows families of generational ages to gather at the same spot. So I would strongly advocate putting it at the well house to serve current needs, and the future will take care of itself. But this idea was for the children in Whittier now, from my perspective.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Victor's got to say that.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess something I would like, I got a couple questions. One is 35. Because I know the cost of construction and the amount of fill that will need to be brought in and equipment. Is this amount sufficient to install this equipment?
Our Public Works Directors worked really closely with the people that we purchased the playground equipment from, as well as their engineer. And yes, you are right at that dollar amount. We can be done. A lot of the work will also be done by us to be able to bring that cost down.
Awesome. And then the question was, as far as locations and stuff, I know you guys are seeing, lots of kids using it, and I mean, they're using it right now. And if you guys know that there are two already pre-existing playgrounds here in Whittier already, and there are in different states of, how would you say, in their age, lifespan and stuff. And I've always been a proponent of hoping to see that the city and the school work together to either update, renovate, or build something there, because those playgrounds located up there, we have a lot of things already going for us there. You have proximity to basically where most of the families live. I know a lot of families use that, like rainy days, sunny days, are using it, and half the town can see the kiddos there. And so there is that safety factor there. There is that a site that's graded and flat and covered, and it's being used. It gets lots of use. But I do hear a lot of commentary on from kids about how that playground is a little dated. I don't know if you guys have walked up there and seen what the playground up there currently. Yeah. No? I'd encourage you guys to check. I would encourage you to go take a walk up there and see it. It's used quite a bit, and it's very popular. But there is a lot of, comments from community and children about that playground, wishing that it would, just mentioning that is a little dated. And it's always been my hope that the city would be able to leverage our resources and with the school to be able to make something even greater, rather than trying to do two separate things in our small community. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I have a question. Do we have a spot in mind, a specific spot in mind? The reason I'm asking that is we have been working on moving the wells to create commercial space next to the road. So are we talking about putting it closer to the wells, south of the basketball court, so that we don't have to move it at a later time?
So both locations have been looked at. Both locations could be placed at either or. Where you're talking about basically where we just placed the sandbox, it would be in that area, and it would be run along that same footprint as the basketball court. So you'd have the basketball court. We would have to move the sandbox, and then you would have the playground and the safety equipment that basically you have to build up a berm. You have to be able to put the materials down. There has to be an edge around it. So all of that would be right there. And then we would have to relocate where the sandbox is.
How much equipment is there? This conversation started out as a swing set.
It's a swing set with a slide attached to it. You actually got it cheaper than just buying a swing set.
Okay, so that's it. There's one unit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, my concern is for the kids now. Once again, there's mixed ages up there at the same time. They're already there. The essence of my question was, if there were multiple units, all I was advocating for was a swing set and not a gymnasium. So, but if there's only one unit, I will stand on my last comments. Thank you.
And it's considered a one unit. When we purchased it, it was more expensive for us to buy this swing set than it was for us to buy a swing set with a slide. It's not just the unit, it's the amount of space that you have to have. You have to have a fall radius now, even with a swing set. So depending on how tall the swing set is, on how high they can go, and how they could possibly jump out of that swing set, all of those things have to be brought into perspective. It's not just putting in a swing set anymore. And so that is why you're going to have a wider area, because it has to cover where that child may fall.
So did you get a chance to talk? You did? Okay. So Jackie, you're talking about north-south? The swing set's going to go north-south?
Sorry, same direction as your basketball court. So your basketball court, then your playground equipment.
Okay.
And it
Tom?
won't interfere with the one tree that's there either.
So speaking to location, as a father, 2 kids under the age of 14 and 4 grandkids under the age of 10, only my 14-year-old can go down there unsupervised to play basketball. The rest of the kids, they either have to be with an adult or they have to play across the street at the school playground. So future, since this is a playground and it's going to be aimed at younger kids, I would go with the other location. So, and I will also say that those kids sometimes don't mix well together, the older kids and the younger kids, especially when there's no adults around. So.
Yeah, the Wellfield playground or parked area seems to attract an older demographic, youth and stuff. You know, they're playing basketball, they're playing soccer down there. Whereas like playgrounds and stuff, you got kids under the age of, you know, middle school and elementary school, and they're mostly playing up by the school because parents want their kids to be closer to home. Thank you.
I'd like to make an amendment to this resolution. The amendment would be something along the lines of this playground equipment shall be placed at or near the basketball court. It's an amendment. I'm asking for an amendment. So do I have I'd ask for a motion to make that amendment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Question, if I may. Should the time come when we want to move this, how onerous a task will that be?
Take the number that you paid and add ×2. Can I make it a little harder for you? I don't mean to, but if we could take a 30,000-foot view for just a second, a 30,000-foot view of how everything is laid out and hearing what all the council members said tonight. I have to put my planner hat on just for a second, because if I have to take and say, okay, we're going to put in this playground, and whether it's just a swing set or just a slide and a swing set, and hearing what, you know, Councilmember Shen and Wagner and McCulto and Denmark and everybody said, if you look at a 30,000-foot view where your school is set, and you say, okay, if we can do a partnership with the school and clear that alder area that's in the back, that gives you an open green space for a possible soccer field. Again, gets people to be able to recreate towards a park, but not in a commercial industrial area. And I understand fully that, I mean, we're used to it, right? That's where it is. That's what we're used to. But if you take that 30,000-foot view and say, okay, we work with the school and we create this open space that can be used for soccer and tag football and all of that. And then we start, as a community, start building playground equipment at the end of that open space. You have a playground that's associated with the school. You have this open field, and then you have where you guys have already zoned park. You put a playground there, and then you build off of that with building a pavilion, and you slowly start to build your playground down towards an area that's not going to be a busy commercial district forever, because this is zoned commercial, and we know how things are progressing, what that could possibly look like. So do you pay the $35,000 to have it placed there? And then at the same time, look at producing a park down over here? Or do you start that with, we're going to put our new playground equipment down in this park. We're going to direct our administration to work with the school. And we're going to direct our administration to reach out to large corporations and organizations that have already offered to help us build parks and really push our park out to that side of town, to where most of the building is occupied by our children. And I will say that I live in that building as well as most of you, and I see a lot more kids playing over there, but they play soccer on the road between the school and the building. You've got cars coming and everything. So why would you want to just place it there knowing that it's most likely going to have to move?
I could answer that. Because it's a now thing. As we've looked into the future visioning for the city park, we're talking about a project that runs into the millions given the scope that we've discussed. We're talking about $35,000 for now, not for 5-10 years down the road. Thank you.
And can I answer back to that really quick? I don't want to debate. I don't mean to. It's this 35,000 foot view that I have. I see spend the 35,000, put the 35,000 there, because it still gives you exactly what you're trying to create here. Yes, your basketball court is there, but it starts your park over here. That's just where my thought was. So again, wherever you guys would like us to place it, we'll make sure it's placed.
David?
Yeah, so what you're saying is there will not be a 5 or 10 year delay if we put it up in the park, correct?
Same thing. It's the engineering is, do
Right,
we place
but-
it there or do we place it here?
We can place it up there, not today.
Yeah, but
It's
the
just
rest of
assume-
that park isn't going to be there for 5 or 10 years. That's still an envisioning process.
It is, but we're going to have to piece it together. It's not going to happen all at once.
So, one of the things about the park that you're talking about, if I remember right, it is fee simple land. It's not.
No, the area you're talking about is actually on this side of the road and is fee simple land. That is not zoned park. You guys have zoned the park at the base of the mountain basically and right up next to the school. It's not fee simple land. You've literally zoned it as park. But what you're talking about is where the levy side of things on the other side.
The drawings I saw were across that area and incorporated a bathroom and things like that.
Yeah, the
in fee
bathroom is
simple land.
located right next to the school property, is on the land, on the park land. It's located right at the end of Whittier Street, right next to the school property.
One of the problems that we have had in the past is that kids like to recreate, and sometimes young kids yell and scream in delight. And we've had noise complaints at the BTI with just kids recreating. So, one of the reasons why I was advocating for that swing set to be down near the basketball area is they're basically families can gather together. You have the older kids playing basketball, the younger kids on the slide, and there's a barbecue pit there. It can be done this summer. You're basically going to have a swing kind of out of pocket for a while.
We have an amendment to the resolution and a second on the table, I believe.
I guess I would be opposed to, I'm opposed to this amendment. I would say like, and leave the resolution the way it is. That way we can give administration some flexibility down the road as they work forward to installing this, and for our planning and zoning to do their work, but also giving them flexibility. Opportunities sometimes arise. I don't think they will lollygag on this. I think they are I believe truly they are working toward getting it done. But I think specifying locations, I feel like I don't want to restrict put anything restrictive in, I guess, if we're looking for, if opportunities arise, or we work towards something that will bring us opportunities.
So just because we place one slide and a swing set down there does not mean that we are dooming any park development by the school. There are multiple cities in the state of Alaska that actually have 2 parks. And some even have 3.
And there is a comment in the city manager's report that Parks and Rec had been advocating numerous mini parks around town. And this could go to that notion.
Well, I'm just saying as a father, grandfather, I'm not going to support putting a swing set down there with the older kids playing basketball where parents can't watch them.
Parents can watch them, but if the intent is to move it, now we're up to almost $100,000 for swing set. So if we're going to leave it there, that's one thing. But we voted years ago to make that into a commercial area once the wells are moved, so it'd have to be moved anyway. So it depends on what we're going to do with that front area, but I don't want to spend the money twice.
We wouldn't be spending the money. Whoever's buying that area we have, first off, it's master lease land. So we're still in the infancy stage in terms of acquiring that land. And if we were to develop it, whoever's going to develop it would have to come on board for that.
And one comment to your comment, the noise complaints. I'd much rather hear young kids yelling at 9 o'clock than the older kids yelling between midnight and 2 o'clock, which is more common.
Yeah, and on that note, it's because the kids are playing out in the street in front of the building. And maybe if they had a park to go to, they'd go to the park instead of playing out in the street.
Okay, no further discussion.
Voting on the motion to amend Resolution 2025-023 by inserting this playground equipment shall be placed at or near the basketball court. Mr. McAlto.
Yes.
Mr. Denmark.
Yes.
Mr. Pincush.
I'm sorry, this is for the amendment, correct?
This is just the amendment.
No.
Yes. Mr. Wagner.
No.
Mr. Shen.
No.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion fails 3-3. The motion to amend fails, apologies. Returning again to the motion to approve Resolution 2025-023.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Voting on the motion to approve Resolution 2025-023, authorizing the city manager to engage a contractor to install newly purchased children's playground equipment according to playground safety standards and to purchase related fill and other materials in an amount not to exceed $35,000 and appropriating funds. Mr. Shen.
Yes.
Mr. McAlto.
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion passes and Resolution 2025-023 is approved.
So, moving on to new business. No, Resolution 2025-024.
Resolution 2025-024 is a resolution authorizing the reappropriation of 2024 motor pool funding for the purchase of a police cruiser and associated patrol unit equipment in an amount not to exceed $60,000 and appropriating funds.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-024.
Second.
Discussion?
Is this a new car?
Yes, it is, sir.
Thank you.
It's similar to what we already have in our fleet, the half-ton pickup four-door crew cabs.
That is correct. It's a fleet vehicle. It's a half-ton four-door truck. It's going to be outfitted just like the current vehicles are, and it's going to replace the blue Expedition we currently have that's rusting apart, and we purposely not put any money into it until it gets replaced.
The one you're driving?
Yes, sir.
Is 60,000 enough to purchase the vehicle and outfit it?
No, the purchase
Okay.
price is a government bid award purchase price. It was 51,000 change for the purchase of the new vehicle. We got a bid of over $12,000 to outfit it. I've narrowed the bid down. So we're going to spend approximately just shy of $11,000 to outfit the interior of the vehicle, not including the radios. The radio will be coming from the grant that we appropriate through the state of Alaska for the vehicle. And that's another $10,000 for the radio.
Wait, can you line out those costs again? 51,000 for the vehicle.
51,000 for the vehicle, roughly $11,000 for outfitting the interior of the vehicle, and another $9,500 for the radio equipment inside. That's a total cost. What's that the city's not going to be covering is the cost of the radio, the just under 10,000, as well as minus we're going to only pay the roughly $9,000 to outfit. The rest will come out of the equipment budget for the police department.
Oh, okay. It's okay. So some 60,000 is going to come out of the motor pool, and the rest is going to come out of our annual budget.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. I was like, well, you're short there. Thank you.
The the motor pool fund, is that a general fund?
Mr. Mayor, the motor pool fund is an internal service fund of the city, which means it's used to service all the funds of the city. It's not actually part of the general fund. It stands alone. So each year, the police department and other departments can budget monies to be put into the motor pool fund so that they're basically forward funding replacement of equipment. And when there's enough money in that fund, then they can purchase vehicles. The monies in the motor pool fund currently are primarily police department related. They've been paying money into the motor pool each month so that they have money sitting there to purchase vehicles, so it doesn't have to come out of the general fund unbudgeted. So the motor pool mechanism is something we hope to grow over time so that each fund will be putting money into the motor pool. And when there's enough money in there to replace existing vehicles, it'll be kind of a self-perpetuating fund to replace vehicles without kind of unanticipated one-time hits to the general fund or the harbor fund. So these funds, the 60,000 we're appropriating, is money that the police department has been setting aside in their budget each year into the motor pool to replace vehicles.
So we track each department's contribution.
Yes, that's correct.
You said the motor pool fund is just for Whittier Police Department?
No, the motor pool fund can be used for any department. We've been kind of waiting till we get our harbor fund stronger, for example, financially. Now that we have a long-term financial plan for the harbor and they're going to be spending less of their budget on capital costs. Over time, we expect, for example, the harbor can start budgeting a certain amount of money to be put aside into the motor pool each year so that when they have enough money, they'll be able to purchase equipment out of that fund without having to budget for one-time hits to the harbor of $60,000 or $70,000 a year. Currently, almost all the money in the motor pool is just from the police department. I think we started putting a little bit of money from Public Works. We put the money from the surplus sales that were related to vehicles that are already in the motor pool back into the motor pool. So it's kind of in its infancy. We've had it for probably 4 years. And over time, we expect to allow more departments as they have capacity in their budget to contribute to that fund so they can replace their equipment over time. But it's, it can take 15 years or so to get to the point where it's kind of a self-perpetuating fund. Right now, the majority of the resources in that fund are police department monies that have been set aside.
Because I believe our Whittier EMS and fire engine are kind of outdated and they need to be replaced sooner rather than later.
I agree with that. So the way we normally do this is, let's say this year the fire department said they wanted a new truck. So we would put it in the budget. It would be a one-time hit to the general fund. Maybe it's $70,000. So we have to come up with that money out of our regular budget. But then we would tell the fire department, okay, from now on, you need to start putting money in your budget to contribute to the motor pool each year. And if we estimated that a vehicle is going to last maybe 7 years for the fire department, we would say $10,000 a year is how much you need to set aside and inflation adjusted a little bit each year so that at the end of 7 years, you have enough money to replace that vehicle when the time comes. So we will typically start with kind of a fresh purchase of a new vehicle, and that will trigger the start to them putting money aside in the motor pool for specific vehicles. Most of our vehicles are not in the motor pool because we haven't been able to start that process. But over time, as we have money to fund new vehicles, that will trigger us to start also funding the motor pool, so long as the budget can sustain it.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hearing no more comments,
Voting on the motion to approve Resolution 2025-024, authorizing the reappropriation of 2024 motor pool funding for the purchase of a police cruiser and associated patrol equipment in an amount not to exceed $60,000 and appropriating funds. Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. McCulto,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
yes.
The motion passes and Resolution 2025-024 is approved.
Okay, other new business. Solid waste services discussion.
Look at that. We already had it on the agenda. We were going to name it Let's Talk Trash, but we decided that would be a really bad idea. But this, for us tonight, I just want to talk about some solid waste issues that we're having, as well as some opportunities that our harbor master has talked about with possibly changing the sizes of the dumpsters or what we could do with that. So I just wanted to openly be able to discuss the issues that we're having with our dumpsters and with the trash collection and the cost, which was sort of brought up by Councilmember Shen also. But if Borg would like to just talk about the dumpsters, possibly having them located commercially at a different location.
Testing. Thank you. So we purchased, as you've seen, we replaced all our 6-yard dumpsters with some new 8-yard dumpsters that are certified bear proof, not human proof, but bear proof. They are of a little taller design. They have a smaller opening, and they do hold 8 yards of trash vice 6. Now that does mean they cost a little bit more to tip. They obviously hold a little more trash, but they seem to be keeping up with the capacity at this time, at this early season. They're keeping up. We are getting them dumped on Friday. Then we run through the weekend and they get dumped again on Tuesdays. So we see they're filling up pretty quick over that 4-day weekend time period. And then by Friday, after they get dumped on Tuesday, by Friday, they're probably, most of them are 3/4 of the way full. We're still very early in the season, and we haven't seen as much traffic as we have, in the past this time of year. Now, something else we have to remember, we also service all of the trash cans that are throughout the city. So all the new green trash cans that we got, they got the nice City of Whittier emblem on them. We service all of those. We service all the 2-hole brown trash cans that are throughout the entire city. All that trash ends up in the harbor dumpsters, or the campground, because we fill them up here. I still do have 2 6-yard. We do still rent 2 6-yard dumpsters that I have at the campground, and they stay pretty steady as well. They also get dumped on Fridays and again on Tuesdays. One of the thought processes that I have at this point is our commercial businesses tend to fill up our dumpsters rather quickly. We've all had that conversation. I don't need to beat that horse. So what my thought process is, and I'm just kind of in the monitoring stage right now, is my thought process is to bring a 20-yard dump in, maybe place it up at the head of the bay behind lock and key, so it doesn't turn into a dump station, and give a key to our leaseholders that are in the harbor that use a majority of our dumpster space, and then also use that for what we're utilizing throughout the city trash cans. I think that'll give us a good handle on what we are actually handling. It's not a ton cheaper, but it also will give us an idea what our waste streams are, if that makes sense. The dumpsters, and I can pull up an email real quick. Sorry, I wasn't ready for this 100%, but I did get prices from Waste Management just the other day about what that cost looks like. Let's see, give me just a second here. So for a roll-off, 20-yard, one-time delivery fee of $524. It's $192 a month to rent. Each haul would be $1,217 plus disposal, and disposal at Anchorage is $202 a ton. And a 20-yarder will hold, I want to say, if I remember correctly, 8 tons of trash. So just doing the math real quick, I don't have, and I was just talking to Chris before we sat down, I don't have the numbers currently of what Waste Management charged us last month. And part of the reason for that is they don't charge us like all winter long, and then they hit us in like March or April for our costs, because they only come like every 2 or 3 weeks in the wintertime, and they only service like 2 or 3 dumpsters. So they just wait till the end of the season, and then they hit us all at once. So Chris might have something more recent, but I have not seen an invoice for our 8-yard dumpsters yet. So it's, like I said, it's kind of hard to do the exact math on this. But at the end of the day, we've got to get a better handle on how we're doing business. And And I think it's going to be helpful that we no longer rent those 6-yarders. We don't have to worry about maintaining lids and bear-proof locks because they charge us for all those things. They needle us right down to, just the bear-proof bars that we pay for. So I think I probably will have a better handle on all of this in the next meeting. But I can definitely take questions.
So I guess I'm gonna latch on to something you said. You stated that you think that the leaseholders you suspect they're producing the majority of the trash volume?
Well, when you got to remember boxes, right? Cisco comes and delivers trucks every 3 or 4 days. So there's boxes.
Okay.
A majority of them do use the recycling, the box recycling, and we do pay for that. We don't pay for the weight. We just pay for the hauling and the dumpsters.
Oh, so they charge us by volume.
Right.
but
They don't charge us for the cardboard because that gets recycled. They just charge us for the haul and for the tip and then
tip and
bringing
stuff.
the
They don't weigh it
dumpster
at the end.
rent. Right.
So I was just doing some math here. So $140,000 a year in trash fees, correct?
That was last year, correct?
Yep. And then we're looking to generate $7,500 from trash fees. That's 5% of the total trash bill for the harbor. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we really forget about, and one of the things that I hadn't really thought a lot about, was just the trash cans around town. And if you look, I mean, we've got one every, 1,000 feet, it seems now, and which is great, right? Let's keep our trash down. But, those things they fill up our dumpsters quick.
Yeah, and what are they being filled with? Like, if you have businesses
Well,
selling to-go trays and,
Yeah. That's the majority of it down in the waterfront for sure, where it's all, to-go boxes and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a simple explanation for this, but why is it that the businesses in town don't have their own dumpsters?
It's an age-old question that I've asked for quite a while.
And I guess my next question would be, if we are going to pursue this, invest in a remote site with a dumpster, would it behoove us to get a compactor?
I'm not against it. They're just extremely expensive, obviously. I looked into it in my previous position down in Juneau, and you're looking at almost $500,000 in infrastructure. They're not cheap. They do get to the situation where,
I know a guy.
yeah, well,
Ain't $500,000.
yeah, when you get done with power and where you're going to put it, and again, we have a limited space, right? And at the end of the day, highest and best use for our properties, is it a trash compactor, and how do you get the dumpsters there? Do you have a truck that hauls them? You start adding up, and that's when I talk about the $500,000 price tag that I was looking at down south at $400,000 to $500,000. It was a lot of that was just infrastructure to support that piece of equipment.
Yeah, I guess I'm talking about like the ones that like Walmart has that just sit there.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And
yeah.
they're hydraulically driven. Yeah.
And then some businesses in town, do pay for their own trash, or in organizations, the Manor, the PTI, all the businesses and organizations on this side of the railroad tracks, or on the mountainside of the railroad tracks. You can ask them, you can talk to them and see how much they pay.
So we're looking at 40,000.
So to Tom's comment, one of the big issues of businesses having their own dumpsters is now the trucks have to have access to those dumpsters. So every one is going to create less parking. So where they're concentrated is a better system, especially since there's no parking there. It is nasty to have to walk past them every time you go to your boat, but it's part of the, so you just have to do it. But how much are we, several questions, how much should we save by owning the dumpsters? It's not a lot, like 1,000, like 12,000 a year, maybe tops.
That's a good stab, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then to Chris, you had discussed with someone previously about a different contract, and they said they had just taken on a new contract and it would be a while. Have we gone back that route again?
Councilmember Pincush through the mayor, I think we did reach out to someone and ask if they would be interested in bidding, because we didn't want to go through all the hassle of doing an RFP if nobody was going to respond. There was another company that indicated an interest, and then they came down to Whittier and looked, and they did the math on what it would cost them to put in a bid, and then they said it just was bad timing for them. So it's, you know, it's never a bad idea to go out to bid on something. The only concern is if you only get one responder, then they pretty much know that there's no competition, and then it makes it harder to, you know, to be competitive at all. So, but we can sure look into that again and see if there's anybody else who might be interested.
I would be concerned, I know it was the Soldat, and I would be concerned about them being able to haul garbage trucks over the pass in the wintertime. But we also, council may remember, some of you, we did put a bid in one time on our own truck. We did not get the bid. It was a truck from Palmer. And it is a, you know, you have to get Scott involved in here, but it could potentially be beneficial, especially if you have like the dumpsters load up on Sunday and you could go dump if you had to, but the bigger dumpsters may handle it. But with your thought on the bigger dumpster that head of the bay, that's extra. How would that lower our cost? You're going to go eliminate some of the smaller dumpsters in that thought, or?
Just did a quick run through June and May and June. We're looking at $40,000 to dump an 8-yard twice a week, 4 times in a month is $3,030. So if we went with a 20-yarder, and that's times 7, so $3,030 a month times 7. That's what we're looking at right now, not including the weight. So if we could reduce the times that they had come and dump those, we'd cut that price in half, right? So instead of dumping it on Friday because we're full and then coming on Tuesday because we filled them up all weekend, you know, maybe we come down to, hey, just come on a Friday and then we're good. So that would cut that cost in half by sending our commercial trash north up, you know, to the head.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And when you, since we own the dumpsters, we're not paying rent on them no matter what. So yeah, potential, good potential how it would work up there at the bay. Be a good place for bear viewing.
Well, that's, yeah. And they, you know, they make some dumpsters that would be capable of keeping that. And, you know, another thing we could do too is we could purchase our own, you know, but we'd have to have 2 because you got to send one and you got to have one, right?
Oh,
you know, and then when they come to dump that one, they would bring the other one to us instead of having them come and dump it and then bring it back, because then we're just paying twice as much. So if they just kept one there, brought it empty, carried one full, kept it, brought it empty, you know, back and forth, or heck, we could lease it to them.
I like the concept, but I would lease first, you know, and try it.
Yeah,
see what we get, and then maybe it'd be worth purchasing. It very well could be worth it.
Yeah.
So if council's done talking trash, we can possibly bring something forward in the next couple months. We just wanted to make sure this is our busy time. It's starting to be busy. I know board goes to sleep at night thinking about trash, and Chris does too. So this way we can just help with that too. So hopefully we can bring something forward to what that would look like.
Is it too late to try it this year? Depends how long it take to get it. But if it's only going to be August, September, are we going to have to pay for it all winter for our test?
Yeah, wintertime, 2 dumpsters. I'd have one at the top of the gangway and then one at the launch ramp. And, you know, our costs go way down then.
Would it be too late to test it, though?
I'm not against it. I just don't want to think that it's going to work and bring our costs down. And then when it doesn't, you know, I've always just tried to truth things out as best I can prior to putting it in motion. Sometimes you just got to step off the edge, give it a shot and see what happens. I mean, we did do that with our transient mortgage years ago, and we found that lowering the cost a couple of bucks brought more people in and we made money. So, you know, I'm willing to try it.
I guess this answers my questions, like on like trying to reduce costs and stuff. But so my question, I guess my concern still is just the distribution of the expenses and the costs of our trash here in the harbor front. You know, if I guess the ratio of where is the trash coming from? Is it coming from boaters? Is it coming from our commercial lessees? And then making sure that basically people are paying, like we're making it as fair as possible. Like where is the trash coming from? And then so who pays for it?
Well.
Right. I know that is going to be a contentious one. I know I'm going to make. Mhm.
It would help a lot.
Okay.
I mean, you know, my vantage point from my apartment, and I see who's using the trash and who's filling up dumpsters. So
Yeah, just looking there. Thank you.
I think this would help.
Thank you.
Schedule upcoming work session on Title II updates.
Mayor and council, our city clerk and city attorney have been both working on updates to Title II. And before bringing them forward, we would like to be able to have a work session with you prior to the July 15th meeting, if possible, to just start going over what changes they are suggesting. And that gives you a little bit of a ability to process a little bit of it before it just gets brought in front of you as an introduction for changes. I'd sort of like to do that when we do any code changes, so we have a work session prior to.
You know, if you wanted to email it to me, I'd be happy to read it, but it is the middle of summer and I'm working 2 jobs. Most of us are working 2 jobs. And some of us own our own businesses. It's the wrong time of year to have work sessions.
Well, that's why I was going to try to have it at a 6 o'clock, even just the hour before your regular council meeting, giving you the ability to hear why the changes are being made. There are some minor changes, but we do believe that you need to have that. That's the purpose of trying to request the meeting. If we can't do a work session and the council says do work sessions in the winter, then we'll schedule those type of things. But that's why I was asking for at least the hour before the council meeting on July 15th.
Well, there was again.
Oh, thank you. Though we had previously discussed that work sessions in the middle of the summer are less than desirable, this sounds like an informational meeting only, and if it could be handled in a pre-meeting workshop, I don't think that would be too onerous.
I can do 15th.
And that's basically my goal, is to try to do that so that you're aware of why something's coming forward, your changes, then you have it, we can talk about it, but it'd be that hour before. So 6 p.m. is what I'm requesting.
And would those changes come in the form of some sort of document to be reviewed before that workshop?
Yes.
For those who
Yeah,
would
you
not
would
be
receive
able
the
to
red
make the
line
workshop?
version of what that looked like. Mhm.
Thank you.
Is this a motion thing or just a thumbs up?
I'm going to ask, since there's some confusion and an actual request, if the council could please vote on whether or not they want to have a work session at 6 PM on July 15th. I'll need a motion in a second.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Ready to vote? Okay. Voting on the motion to schedule a work session at 6 PM on July 13th. Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. McAlto,
Yes.
Mr. Pincus.
No.
Correction, it would be on July 15th, the date of the regular meeting. Mr. Pincus, you voted no?
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
No.
The motion passes 4-2. And a work session is scheduled for 6 PM on July 15th, the night of your regular meeting.
Discussion of request for foreign visitors.
So the manager of the, this is the only way I can say this. I don't know how else to ask. So we were requested by the manager of the new Whittier Seafoods. We do not know the owners, just so you know, we have not met them, but the manager came into my office last week and stated that a company from China had purchased the Whittier Seafoods establishments and were looking at doing a bunch of upgrades and wanted to come and introduce themselves and show you what their plans are to move forward with the Whittier Seafoods business. The catch there is that they are a delegation from China, and in order for them to obtain visas to come and visit the community, there has to be a letter from the highest authority body of the city requesting that they come and visit. And so he asked if I would put it on the agenda to ask the council if they would see fit or want to address a letter to the Chinese delegation for their visa to be able to come here and do a tour and tell you what they're planning on doing with their plant.
I'll make that motion for a letter.
Second.
I can draft the letter and send you a draft of what that would look like if the council would like. I'm still waiting for names because I was hoping to have some of the names tonight as well as the manager, but he was unable to attend. So I can, if this passes, then administration will work on drafting that letter for you. They bought everything. So they bought the lease into the Whittier Seafoods, the P12 building, the housing complex. They did meet with myself, the harbor master, and the public works director because we wanted to talk infrastructure and things. He did show us that their plans to remodel and redo the housing situation, the upgrades that they would need to do inside the plant, the upgrades that they plan on doing on the outside of the plant, as well as the upgrades to the roofing systems on both. So they did show us some quite interesting drawings and designs, and then did speak in length about what their goals were. They did mention that they probably would not be processing anything this year because this would be the year that they would be really doing the work on the plant.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say that I did run into a representative, and he was extremely concerned about the condition and visual aspects of the building and thought they looked poorly and wanted to get them cleaned up. So I was very pleased to hear that. So,
Okay, hearing no further discussion. Well, actually, let's, so we're gonna, essentially, this is a direction to the city manager to write a letter, and then does council want to see the letter in July, and then we'll sign it, or what's y'all's preference?
If they bought it, we ought to meet them.
Okay, so, are we authorizing the mayor to sign the letter, or are you gonna sign the letter?
I honestly would not mind drafting the letter and then having it signed where we could get all of your signatures as council members, mayor first, and then the rest of the delegation, only because this will go to their visas. The visa will then show that the governing body as a whole unit signed the letter. So I would write it that way.
Hearing no further discussion.
Could I just confirm that the motion sounds correct? I have directing administration to draft a letter to request a visit from foreign visitors relating to Whittier Seafoods. Okay, sounds good. All right, so voting on the motion to direct administration to draft a letter to request a visit from foreign visitors relating to Whittier Seafoods. Mr. Wagner,
yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. McCulto,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion passes and administration is directed to draft a letter.
Okay, moving on to council comments. No commenting. Oh, Victor?
I was going to go back to the city manager's comment about the resolution on the playground equipment and her recommendation of us directing her to approaching the school, I guess, to explore the possibility and potential for any partnerships, opportunities that might lie there. I guess, what does that need? Can we do that from our council comments section, or do we need to bring this up with new business at a later meeting?
I didn't catch a word of that.
No, sorry. I want to go back to what the city manager said about the resolution on playground equipment and her recommendation of council directing her to approach the school to explore the potential for any opportunities that might lie there in a partnership with the school, between the city and the school. And I was wondering if that's something we can do here from council discussion, or if we need to bring it up in new business in another meeting.
I'm not opposed to discussion with the school as far as paying. I'm not opposed to speaking with the school as far as planning a park. I think that that would be a good outcome for that property. The notion that we would move, spend twice as much on a slide to move it rather than we're not going to move the basketball court either. We're just going to demolish it. the park will have served its purpose. But anyway, I think there's the future and then there's the now. And I would, if I was to direct the city manager, I would ask her to please think about the now, and the future can be not rushed. It seems like we're going to be planning a slide and a swing set and then we're going to build around it. That doesn't sound like a very good plan. Any further council discussion?
I guess,
You know, I think you and I have kids.
go ahead, Dave, sorry.
Okay. Well, on a positive note, the positive thing I got out of Mr. Dickinson's resignation, when that condo still sell good. Oh, that's a good thing so far. But, you know, we got the letter from Phillips about the computation for their transportation fee, the waterborne fee. You know, they have the most difficult time because they have the most passengers. And I've looked at what I have and what we have done. And I actually asked two people today that do this form, and one company likes the way it is because it's simple. The other one doesn't. So what I see is different businesses have different ways of computing their numbers of passengers. So I am going to ask council to allow me to talk to Chris about having two different forms and let them pick what they want. The bottom of the form would be identical. The information the city needs would not change. It would simply be how you fill in the blanks. And I actually brought copies of it. And the old PTBT tax, so you can see it, this area circled right here, that area right there, that's 3 months worth of work right there. It's not, you fill that in and fill in the total amount, sign it. The form now, you fill in 31 times and do it like that. That's easier for some people because they compute it daily. Other ones don't. So I'm going to suggest that we basically allow them to use either form based on which way they do it. And unless there's a reason the city wants it that way, that would matter. But the way I see it is if a person's audited, you're not going to go by this form anyway. You're going to go back to their books. And so their books are computed in different ways. So it isn't going to matter to the city in the end if you audit them how it's done. It all comes out in the wash anyway. And so I from what I understand, boats that have more than 6 passengers, we have to have a form anyway. And here's our form. I have to keep a list of every passenger every day. It's called a manifest. So the Klondike has that as well. Theirs is 400 or 500 or 600. And then they have to compute that every day. So they must have had a system where they could easily compute. Let's go back up here. So the old system, you just put a number in here. That's how many passengers you had in 3 months. Now you got to do 31 days to come up with that. So you're putting in potentially 90 or 91 numbers to come up with a final number instead of one number. So it does add, it's not a huge burden, but my feeling is that let's make it simple for the businesses. The end result, the bottom of the page is going to be the same. It's the information the city is going to need for the tax will be identical. It's just this portion here would have more than one option. So I would ask council if they support this to let me work with Chris to come up with a solution that works better for the businesses that are having trouble with the new system.
And a question for Mr. Pinkish, didn't you have, we talked about this, and didn't you indicate that this reporting is redundant as a function of what's already reported to the Coast Guard?
It's redundant. Well, yes and no. It's redundant in this. Yes. Every boat that has 6 or more than 6 passengers has to have a list daily of every passenger. So you've already got that. So you have something to fall back on. So it's not really, it's redundant in the sense of you have to log it 90 times versus once. So in that sense. And then any boat that fishes, they're going to have an e-logbook. We started this year, so that's all computerized that you can look up every single passenger. The only people that don't have a state or federal backup to how many passengers we have would be a six-pack boat that's doing sightseeing. Every other boat that's out there already has a way to be monitored if we chose to audit them. So there is extra work done, and I'm assuming that the client that Phillips had some way of, they've already got a system how they use it, that I would imagine they have a computerized system, and now they're having to change it to where they're going to have to make 90 entries instead of one for every 3 months. That's what I see, and I don't see the advantage to. I don't see any difference. The city's going to get the same amount of money and the same information because they're looking to look at the totals at the bottom. I don't think the city should care how many people went out on June 15th versus how many went out between June 1st and June, July, August. Well, it's March, April, May, and June all together. So it's just a matter of how everybody does their system. Our system works. We have these every day. At the end of every day, we have a number down here, and we just go 10 key it at the end of 90 days. We total it up one time, and so I don't see if some businesses have created a system that worked with the old system. There's no reason for us to I don't see any advantage for why you have to do it 90 times versus once, I guess. But maybe Chris has a reason.
So you're just asking for our okay to talk with Chris about it?
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Well, and if yeah, and then we'd bring it back if Chris disagrees or whatever, I might bring it back. But to me, it's very simple. It's kind of we created this new form, we got the old form, and we just give people the option of using whichever one they want. The bottom will be identical, so the information that the city needs would be the same on the bottom.
Yeah, and there's been quite a bit of pushback on this, not only from the Klondike, but from some other charter carriers as well. As the paperwork is, I've used the word a couple times tonight, it's burdensome. And one of the arguments that the city used in discussing with us going to a year-round sales tax was ease of administration of a year-round sales tax instead of a seasonal. And that is the reason I voted to support that. And the reciprocal holds true here. This is burdensome for the businesses, and I don't think that it really takes us anywhere. It seems redundant to me. It's easily auditable, as Councilor Pincush has said. So anyway, there's been pushback on this from a number of companies. And I'll just offer another example. The people who, charter companies who carry kayak groups. They know how many people they have on the boat. They don't know who they are unless I, as a kayaking outfitter, tell them. So this is going to offer add another significant layer of paperwork for anybody who is using these charter services as a carrier. Thank you.
Mayor. So I just there is something that we need to talk about. And one of the things that we have to remember is there is by law this division between, and I think it's what Councilmember Pincush is trying to be sensitive to, the directing members of the administration to do or not do something, right? And so council doesn't have the authority to grant approval to direct a director to do or not do something. You do have the ability to draft code or resolutions that enact legislation that controls conduct. So that's one thing. You also have the ability to direct your city manager. So not to direct your city manager to direct a administrative director to do something, but more you can raise the issue like you have, and council can express concern regarding confusion or the burden that it places, and then sort of leave that to the city manager to then determine, does she want the finance director to prepare a report or respond immediately? And I'm just correcting how we approach it, because one of the reasons why that is there is precisely because tax returns and forms and what you have to put on a line, like making sure that administration has, that there's protection for the, say, a finance director to get a lot of input, especially in a world where, if we did a show of hands, whose business is impacted by this, which is why you have the information to provide the input. It's also what creates the risk and why your code says what it says. So all of that to say, I think it's best if Councilmember Pincush doesn't object, is simply that, he's turning to you, Jackie, to make sure that you're aware of all of these issues and to say this is something he'd like to see addressed. Would that be fair? And then, what will come will come.
Holly, I didn't hear that type of, I think Dave was just sharing his thoughts, and Chris has always had an open door for us, and I don't think he was going to suggest that council direct Chris to do anything. I think there's some, there's always going to be this, administration does one thing. I mean, they're not mind readers, but I mean, they're just going to have a discussion, and Chris can explain why it's done that way, or well, that's a great idea. But that's all I heard. I did not feel that we were in any way stepping on Jackie's toes.
Well, and I don't think it's about stepping on Jackie's toes. It's just when we have a meeting like that and then it creates a motion for direct, 2 years down the line, there might be another motion to direct. So we start this process of a motion to authorize. So what Councilmember Pincush said is he wanted a motion to authorize him to talk to, that he saw this confusion in the form and to talk to Chris about the confusion in the form. And I want to make sure that we don't set up a practice where we have these motions to authorize him to talk to Chris about adopting something, right? Because that's an action. I think it's just, I absolutely agree with the observations and sharing them and saying, hey, these are observations and I'd like to see a change to these forms. I honestly think it's more direct. I think and then at that point, you want to see your city manager making collaborative decisions that take into account what you're having to say. We're not going to create a pattern of having motions to authorize contact. That's all. What I'm guessing will happen is lots of contact, because that has been the pattern of this city manager. So
I didn't think he was asking for a motion. I thought he was just being transparent and letting us know.
I
that
agree.
he
I
wanted
think
to
he was
talk to him.
being transparent, but he asked for a motion. So I am just cleaning it up. So we're doing everything the way we should be doing it. It's not to call into question what he was asking, which I'm guessing is going to get answered. So
Chris and David Pincush play well together. They'll be fine.
I agree completely. And that's why this is a matter of practice and good governance. It's not saying that I don't expect anything but responsiveness to Councilmember Pincush's concerns.
And Mayor, if I can answer really quick, during your discussion, I made eye contact with the finance director and was going to say, hey, why don't you guys get together? And then whatever gets decided, we can bring back to the next meeting. So I'm good with it regardless. And Chris was already nodding her head at me like she was okay with it. So if that works, then we fix all issues.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to put on the table because the letter was written, and I actually, if anything, was looking if Chris had any specific reason why it was it changed, but I guess I'll just talk to her about that because from where I sit, the information you need won't change. It's just how a person presents. It's the only thing that's going to happen. So people that have been doing it for this way for 20 years are, for whatever reason, are having difficulty switching. If we could just give them the option of doing it the same way they've been doing it for the last 30 years is kind of what I'm looking for. And I will probably have a discussion with the woman that submitted that because I kind of wonder if they didn't get the modifications we made. You know, we sent it out once and then we changed it. And I wonder if they didn't get they have the old information, not the newest. So was another concern of mine is maybe they don't even know the modifications that we made.
Councilmember Pincush, if I could just say that was my plan was to contact them and ask them, did you see the last ordinance amendment that we made to the original ordinance? Because we did get feedback from the industry that that the request for the manifest information, which is what Councilmember Denmark was talking about, we know how many people are on a vessel, but not who. And so originally the ordinance had requested copies of the manifests, and we got pushback on that was onerous. They didn't want to have to make copies of all their manifests for all the boats went out with who was on each boat. And we had copied that language actually from other communities that require that. So we brought that back to council, agreed that was onerous and that's auditable. We don't actually need copies of all those things. So we changed the ordinance so that we didn't require that. We also changed the ordinance so it no longer required monthly filings, but we went back to allowing quarterly filings unless people are late in filing or late in paying, then in which case there's language that requires them then to go to monthly filing until they get back on track. So we already made those changes to the ordinance. We no longer require the manifest to be submitted, only that it be available if we did perform an audit. And then, but this is a different issue about the forms that are being used. I've not actually heard anybody in particular talk about it in the specificity that you mentioned tonight. I did hear people say, I've had very limited feedback, and the feedback I received was, we don't always know how many people are on each boat. Well, that's a problem, because you need to know that, not for me, you need to know that for someone else. So the fact that you don't know how many people are on each boat, then how can you be reporting to me how much you owe? That's a concern for other reasons. And so, but I mean, I've heard that kind of feedback. I've heard feedback that it's too onerous, which to me, we're asking, how many people did you serve today? That shouldn't be too onerous. We did say that if you have one boat, you have one form. If you have multiple boats, we tried to make it simpler by having a multi-boat form, so you don't have to give us 4 sheets of paper, just one with 4 columns on it. So we were actually trying to simplify things. We certainly weren't trying to make more work for people, but I hadn't gotten the feedback in the specificity you mentioned about why it's more onerous. We simply copied what's been done in other communities, thinking it's been done there, it's been working for many, many years. Hopefully they've figured it out. But I'm certainly open to whatever is going to give us good information and we can make sure people are accountable and it's auditable. We're open to trying to continue to simplify, but just being told it's too hard for us to tell you how many people are on a boat, that's not going to fly. But if it's the paperwork is taking us too long because you're asking for a lot more information than you've asked in the past, I just need to take a look at that and kind of better understand. So
I think it's more just the systems that people have. We changed the system to where they have to enter 30 days versus once for 90 days. And so people already have a system for the 90 day, and now they're having to duplicate but what you mentioned is very true too. Another person said, well, it's better for me to because I fill it out every day as the time goes on, because every day they have 6-pack boats and every day people might get moved around. So at the end of the day, they fill it in. So it's better for them to have the new form because then they don't have to go back and look.
So I did have one item The, I don't even, it's on our fee schedule, and I didn't catch it when we last approved the fee schedule, but there's a fee now for if someone wants to build a residential house or something, that the fee is like 5% of the estimated cost. And I think that's considerably higher than other municipalities. I mean,
I didn't say nothing.
I didn't actually check it out, but what I was told was the fees. Well, I guess I could check it out for Anchorage, but that sounds really high. I mean, I think it was like $20 or $200 before.
You had a $20 application fee, and then it was actually, it's been on there for 2 years now, the 5%. I had originally presented a 15 to 10% fee, and then council talked it down to 5%, but that is well within average of what a building permit costs for multiple communities. And I will gladly send you the information that we had obtained when we changed it from 15% to 5%.
Information like from other
Yeah,
municipalities?
we did it from other municipalities in the state of Alaska as well as the lower 48.
Because we just developed or the cruise ship just did like a $80 million thing. So
Yeah, and I had just came back. I just came on board when that happened, and you received $20 for that application.
the feedback I got from people that are interested in building on these lots is, that originally they start out with, oh, I want to build something really nice, have a cabin and blah, blah, blah. And then once they find out that the fee is 5%, they're like, well, how much did that Quonset hut cost? It's like, we literally have two significant residential buildings. It seemed like we would want to incentivize people to build residential housing. It's expensive to build here.
It's not only expensive to build here, it's expensive for you to have individuals in your staffing do the reporting. And so your 5%, it is very low compared to other communities. I'm glad to bring it forward and have it as another discussion item if you'd like, Mayor, or if you just want to talk about it offline, I can also do that with you.
I would be interested in some of those data points.
Okay, do you want it brought back at the next meeting, or would you like it just as a discussion with you and I?
It doesn't need to, if I got caught misinformed, then I would like to get informed.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it at our next meeting that we have together.
Yeah, I want to go back to mine that I brought up. And I guess I was posing a question, but it looks like, I guess I think I can I'd like to make a motion to direct the city manager to approach the school district to develop any, or explore any potential partnership opportunities. And it's not limited to just playground stuff. The school is a big entity, plays a big role in our community. And I think that by building stronger partnerships and connections within our community, it benefits all around.
I'd love to have partnerships with the school. I would encourage you to bring forward a resolution so we can better articulate that. So that we see, because like you said, there's more than one component than just playgrounds. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see that. So, but in the form of a resolution would be, I think, rather than just a an ad hoc out of council discussion.
Any recommendations from you?
Honestly, I see where you're wanting to go, but I don't need you to direct me. I don't have a problem reaching out and trying to work that partnership with the school. And then when we build that partnership, the possibility of bringing forward a resolution to show those different items, I would do that. But I have no problem as administration for us to build that partnership even better that we already have. If that's okay with council and member Shen, we will do that.
Citizens discussion.
Representative Kai Holland is signed in, but I see that he has departed, and I believe he met his needs for sharing with the council at the beginning. So no other citizens are signed in.
Looks like our next thing is executive session. Does council want to take a quick break before we roll into executive session?
Yes.
I don't suppose I could convince you to vote to move into executive session and then take a break. Okay.
It'll leave more popcorn.
So the request on the table is to enter executive session to discuss the Alaska Railroad Corporation land purchase and Girdwood policing contract, both as per Whittier Municipal Code 2.08.040B1, matters that, if immediately disclosed, would tend to adversely affect the finances of the city.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Was that Mr. Shen made the motion and Mr. Wagner seconded? Okay. Voting on the motion to enter executive session, Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. McCulto,
Yes.
Mr. Denmark, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor, before the vote is totally called, can I please request that the police chief, the finance director, the city attorney, the harbor master, the public works director, and our consultant stay for the executive sessions?
If that is acceptable.
I'm, if that's what you think we need to have in there.
In that case, the motion is approved and council enters executive session at 8:58 PM.
make a motion to come out of executive session.
I'll second.
Hearing no discussion.
Motion to come out of executive session, Pencush,
Yes.
McAlto,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Shen,
Yes.
Denmark,
Yes.
Mayor Blair.
Yes.
You are out of executive session at 10:33 PM.
Move to adjourn.
All right. So move. Let's get out of here.
Adjourning at 10:33 PM.